Okay, I'm gonna put you live on stage now, okay?
Go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Media Law and Ethics broadcast. I'm Sabine.
I'm Lana.
And I'm Syrian, and today we will be tackling one of the most controversial issues in Lebanese media coverage, the choice of linguistics when addressing refugees.
As a first step, we analyzed a headline we thought was problematic, as it emphasizes the nationality of a killer when it's not really relevant. This portrays refugees, and particularly Syrians, like a threat to society and can result in social divisions and fuel fear instead of just informing. Headlines, despite being short, can still entirely shape public perception as they are the first thing that people look at when getting their news. Therefore, when a headline is inaccurate or poorly contextualized, it risks perpetuating harmful stereotypes about refugees.
As communication majors, we aim to challenge such stereotypes and narratives. For this reason, we built a new code of ethics that is based on humanitarian communication principles and that reflects good journalistic practices, specifically fostering respect, agency, and accuracy.
The code was utilized to accurately rewrite the headline. We refrained from any sensualized language and preserved the refugee's dignity without generalizing or emphasizing unimportant details. We were meticulous in our word choice and made sure not to reinforce bias and prejudice or take part in spreading misinformation.
To further elaborate on the discussion, we had the chance to interview Mrs. Jasmine Lilian Diab, expert in the field, who explained how certain patterns of hostile and derogatory language when reporting on refugees are closely related to the ownership and agendas of specific media outlets and how this can lead to unfair biases.
So, the most common language pattern that Lebanese media uses when talking about refugees is very derogatory and hostile, and they attack refugees in the language that they use. Many of them mirror the political narratives that are being perpetuated around refugees. In a research that we've published, we call this media and politics cycle of reinforcement, whereby the media perpetuates hostile language that mirrors politically hostile language, and then the politicians quote the media. So this enters into a very terrible pattern and a very toxic pattern of depicting refugees in a very negative light. Refugees are routinely, as you know, scapegoated and blamed, but also there is a lot of sensationalization around refugee reporting in order for, media outlets to attract attention. You'll see this in terrible media campaigns that are refugee targeted, or you'll see this in clickbaiting and exaggerating articles as well that are perpetuated by media on their social media platforms, etc., for views and for likes and for clicks. Absolutely, political agendas and media ownership structures overlap very much in Lebanon. And as I said earlier, this impacts the exact words that we use when we describe refugees and when we prioritize certain aspects of the refugee quote unquote crisis in our reporting. Of course, as you know, there is a media owned by specific political structures, specific political parties that also relay messages around refugees that align with their own political prioritization as well and their political agendas. So you'll see that there are specific media outlets in the country that are particularly hostile towards refugees. These happen at specific points in political history where this aligns with the objectives, with the direction that their political party is headed in, etc. In order to report ethically on refugees, the media needs to move beyond sensationalizing this and also using the political landscape as their source of information. Media outlets very rarely move into conversations around refugee law, human rights, do not do their research in this regard. They will quote politicians that obviously have their own political agendas. And once again, this cycle of reinforcement creates a lot of misinformation when it comes to refugees. It creates a lot of unfair biases, and it really causes much, much more harm than it does good.
نحكي عن اللاجئين السوريين أم الفلسطينيين بلبنان لأنه لبنان فيه انقسام طائفي. فكل مؤسسة إعلامية رح تحكي عن اللاجئين بصورتها هي اللي هي كيف بتشوف اللاجئين، حتكتب عنهم بطريقة معينة. حيكون أكيد في نوع من بالكتابة اللي ما بيكون ضائق للاجئين إن كان السوريين ولا الفلسطينيين، لأنه حاليا ومن زمان القوى السياسية بلبنان عم بتحاول تكتب شيء اسمه اللاجئين بلبنان إن كان سورية ولا فلسطينية من زمان، وهذا أكيد بينعكس على الأخبار اللي بتنكتب، كيف بيبين اللاجئ السوري أم الفلسطيني بلبنان. اللغة المستعملة بالعناوين بالمقالات أكيد بتأثر على اللاجئين السوريين والفلسطينيين، يعني إذا بدنا ناخذ مثلا لو شو ما صار يعني أي حادثة بتصير علاقة بالأمن بلبنان إن كان قتل إن كان أي شيء، إذا بنطلع على المقال بعنوانه إذا كان فيها القصة بتطلب إنه كان فيها قصة فيها لاجئ سوري أو فلسطيني بيحطوا مثلا سوري عمل كذا كذا، ولكن القصة ما بتكون هيك. إذا بنشوف كمان بيقرا المقال بيكون في تحفظ على بيذكروا الأسامي اللبنانية، يعني نحن نشوف ابريفيشن مثلا الألف والحاء مثلا ما بيذكروا اسم اللبناني، بينما ما بينخلى شيء لو يذكروه على اللاجئين السوريين أو الفلسطينيين بالارتكل. برجع بقول بشكل عام يعني موضوع الاعلام بالصحافه بشكل عام لازم يكون في احترام، ولازم ما فرق يتغطى على كل حدا.
I noticed that from 2022 to 2024, the Lebanese media discourse on Syrian refugees was overwhelmingly dominated by the call for repatriation. While all three media outlets shared this focus, Al Jadid primarily covering the issue, while others like MTV and OTV calling directly for return. The narrative was also broadly supported by specific narratives. On MTV and OTV, these two media outlets frequently utilized economic discourse, claiming that refugees are a burden to the Lebanese economy, and they are the cause of the Lebanese economic crisis that started in 2019. This was one framing. The other framing was demographic, claiming that refugees are replacing Lebanese citizens in Lebanon. These narratives were also coupled by different framings and language use, like the use of xenophobia, the dehumanization language, and also the securitization of refugees' presence in the country. I think that these three media outlets have a high reach in Lebanon. Okay, they can influence public opinion. They widespread fear among Lebanese citizens by consistently using vilifying terms and dehumanizing and securitizing refugees. By doing this, these outlets negatively polarize the public opinion against this vulnerable community. This discourse also provides a dangerous justification for the hatred against refugees, but also for acts of violence against them. This was clear following the assassination of Pascal Soleimani in May 2024, and the violence backlash against Syrian refugees. I think that refugees were marginalized in media coverage. However, in the limited opportunities where they were given to speak, okay, they were being weaponized in order to back the dominant discourse and narratives rather than to empower them. Their voices were only broadcast when they served to validate pre-existing narratives and critiques and accusations, specifically by highlighting high birth rates to claim that they are a demographic threat, doing interviews with refugees and asking them how many children they have and so on, and also doing with them interviews with them and ask them what do they work in order to claim that they are taking the Lebanese jobs from the Lebanese citizens.
As we learned today, the language used to describe refugees plays a huge role in influencing public opinion and attitudes. Their negative framing can contribute to stigma and reinforce misleading narratives, and here comes the responsibility of using ethical wording.
By building this code of ethics and effectively implementing it in actual headlines, our objective was to stress that responsible reporting is possible and can be achieved by starting with simple steps like respecting people's dignity and choosing appropriate phrasing.
We hope this segment motivated you to start critically looking at stories and headlines to avoid falling for inaccurate or poorly contextualized content, and would like to thank you for your attention during our production. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our live broadcast. Today, we're focusing on a major ethical issue in the Lebanese media, which is the misrepresentation of Syrian refugees in Lebanese media. So, for years, news in Lebanon has shaped public opinion through selective coverage, loaded language, and political framing, which often leads to portraying refugees as threats or burdens. They are blamed for crime, unemployment, and economic collapse, even though these issues existed long before their arrival. Headlines that describe refugees as dark skinned Syrians or claiming one economy cannot support two people reinforces harmful stereotypes. Research shows that political influence, sectarian media ownership, and journalism practices all play a crucial role in spreading those harmful portrayals. By applying ethical journalism practices, we can challenge these narratives and present more human and truthful stories.
Before producing our segment, our group created an original ethical code for this issue specifically. It was based on the SPJ Code of Ethics, the UNHCR communication guidelines, and ideas from global media ethics. We focused on three main points in our original code. We emphasized the need to avoid harmful stereotypes, protect the identity and safety of vulnerable communities, and give space for refugees to speak about their own experiences instead of being spoken for. We applied this code directly to our segment. First, we protected our interviewees' anonymity to ensure their safety and privacy. We avoided leading questions and just gave them the space to describe, in their own perspective, how such media narratives impacted their life. We also made sure the interview highlighted personal experiences like how stereotypes affected their identity and belonging. We did not want to reduce the interviewee to a statistic and instead wanted to highlight their individuality and the context that shapes their lives. Our goal was to let the audience hear a voice that is usually missing from mainstream news coverage in order to counter the dehumanizing portrayals we see in Lebanese media. And now you're going to see our interview with the Syrian LAU student.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
I start with the questions. First of all, what do you think the media gets wrong about Syrian refugees in Lebanon?
Mostly they show them as bad for the economy sometimes, or they put them, whenever there's something wrong, they place them to be the ones who did that thing, even sometimes it's not. Even in culture wise, they put them different than Lebanese.
Okay. What stereotypes or negative narratives do you see repeated, and why do you think they are harmful?
We're often treated like one big group instead of individuals. Most of the time, the stories focus on Syrian as problems, either security threat or economic burden, or someone to blame whenever something is wrong. What gets lost in all of that is the human side. People forget that behind every headline there's a family, someone who left their home, someone who's just trying to survive. The media rarely shows that. It's always the dramatic angle and the fear angle, never the reality that Syrians are part of society, working, contributing, and living their lives like everyone else.
You're absolutely right. So you think that the media does focus too much on certain types of stories. So there is a certain picture they want to portray Syrian in, and they just focus on stories to support this picture. You believe that?
Yes,
Okay.
most yes.
How do these portrayals affect how people see or treat Syrian students like you?
It creates fear and prejudice.
Mm.
I forgot the word, sorry. When
Prejudice.
you constantly hear negative things, you start believing them. It affects how people treat Syrians in daily life, whether it's landlords, employers, or just strangers on the street. It also isolates Syrians. It makes them feel unwelcome, even though many have been here for years, working and contributing to the economy. Instead of seeing them as neighbors, co-workers, or friends, people start seeing us as something to worry about. That kind of environment is emotionally exhausting.
Mm.
Airport, in the airport of
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
taxis, I would hear them talk about Syrians in ways, Syrian that, Syrian this, and I would be like, I don't have the accent. One thing about my accent, when I was young, I got bullied for my accent, and people would like repeat words after me or the way I say it. So I changed it. I now
Worked
speak
on.
Lebanese,
Yeah.
and I've lost that mother tongue of mine. So that's one
Yeah.
of the ways. And paper wise, for me to renew my papers each
It's a
year,
whole
it's a
process.
whole process. It's like I'm doing everything from zero. Every paper they ask, some papers are impossible to get, some papers are nonsense.
certain, let's say, crime happens, the first thing we hear is the nationality of this person. So a Syrian guy did this crime. So do you think that this media representation is what favors the stereotype among people?
Yes, I feel like most of the times media try uh, to show stories or headlines that makes you look differently towards Syrians. And I wish the media would slow down and actually tell real stories, not statistics, not dramatic headlines, stories about people. Show Syrians as individuals with dreams, struggles, talents, and families.
Mm.
I also wish they would stop using us as tool during political moments, like also
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, mostly
You think the media does not portray Syrians fairly? Like, it does not show enough this side
no, it
of Syrian.
doesn't. They shift certain groups
Mm.
and blame some of the stuff onto Syrians instead of addressing deeper issues in the country.
Do you think there's a certain way journalists can use to report on Syrian refugees without reinforcing those stereotypes or causing harm to refugees?
Yes, as I said, they should slow down and actually reveal, like, tell stories, the real stories, and like um, showcase us as individuals instead of just like groups, and just put us all in one category.
All right.
There's no credits or anything. You're live.
بلش.
You're live.
In conclusion, we saw how Lebanese media portrays Syrian refugees through stereotypes, political agendas, and simplified blame. These narratives are harmful as they fuel fear and discrimination while hiding the reality of Lebanon's deeper structural issues. World 2021 reminds us that ethical journalism must resist manipulation and present a fuller and more honest picture. We need to encourage empathy, understanding, and justice as responsible journalists and reporters. The media can divide people from these reproduced narratives. Therefore, ethical and just reporting is important because that is what builds connection, dismantles stereotypes, and reveals the truth. Thank
لشو الحكي طالع علينا قمر خلي النظر للنظر يشرح هواه ويشتكي لشو الحكي عند التلاقي سوا أهل الغوا عالهوى يتفهموا من غير حكي بيني وبينك يا حلو شو صار في حكاية ما في كلام ساعة منقولها لفتات بيني وبينك يا حلو شو صار في حكاية ما في كلامي ساعة منقولها لفتات لشو الحكي عند تلاقي سوا أهل الغوا عالهوى يتفهموا من غير حكي.
عم تعطينا بريك.
Okay. Hello, I am Hassana and I am majoring in communication, and these are my colleagues.
I'm Noor, majoring in communication.
I'm Mariam Isa. I'm majoring in multimedia journalism.
Today we will be talking about how Hijabi women are still unfairly represented in Lebanese media and how this affects their opportunities and voices. Hijabi women still experience misrepresentation in the media houses in Lebanon. Some of the largest television producers refuse to hire Hijabi reporters as the Hijabi does not conform to their appropriate vision of the detached appearance of the reporters on television. By not showing Hijabi women, Lebanese media not only break the fundamental ethical standards of fairness, dignity, and responsibility to do no harm, but also challenge each other. The aspect is more than a labor matter. A media ethics one, restricting the voices and viewpoints capable of engaging in the dialogue.
Our code of ethics is built on the idea that journalists have a responsibility to protect and fairly represent marginalized communities. We focused on avoiding stereotypes and using accurate, respectful language, especially when portraying Hijabi women who are often misrepresented in Lebanese media. For our segment, we applied this code by interviewing 2 Hijabi women and letting them speak for themselves. We ask thoughtful questions, avoid reductive framing, and portray each woman as a full individual. Our goal is to create a fair, respectful, and accurate representation that centers their own voices. And of course, we took their consent to film them and share the video live today.
The harmful images of the Hijabi women on Lebanese televisions and the effects of these images were our main questions in the interviews. In Lebanon, the hijab can be considered as not a neutral outfit, as some of the media houses to reject Hijabi women as presenters. We responded to by mentioning the case of Zaina Yassin, where it can be demonstrated that these structural obstacles were presented by hiring practices and newsroom rules.
I'm interior architect, designer. I love designing كل شيء. I am an eclectic person. يعني هيك a mix of كتير أشياء. I'm energetic, sociable, super extrovert.
أنا اسمي ريم عباس، بشتغل بديجيتال ماركتينج ودارسة public relations و advertising.
هلا especially يعني عم نحكي 2025 و even بالyears اللي قبل، ما بحس بقى الحجاب مشكل مشكلة قد قبل. بلس انه هلا لما بتصير في مشكلة خاصة بالحجاب مع شي بنت معينة، بالعكس السوشيال ميديا كتير عم بيكون سبورتيف للموضوع، لانه دايما بتطلع البنت وبتحكي شو صار معها وبيكون في كتير ناس سبورتينج. اكيد في ناس بعدها بتعمل مشكلة من هيدا الموضوع، او يمكن بنت تنرفض بوظيفة معينة او شي معين كرمال هي محجبة، بس ما بشوفها هلا ابدا قد قبل، يعني بالعكس.
بلبنان ما بحس انه اخذ حقها مثل ما لازم، لانه ان جنرال مش بس بالميديا، نحن هيك بالمجتمع. بعد بمناطق معينه، نحن مش مناطق جيوغرافيكلي، يعني بمطارح معينه ما عم نقدر نتقبل بعض مثل ما نحن مزبوط. ان جنرال مثل ما قلت لك انه نحن في عنا بعد بمطارح، يعني مش بس بالميديا، ما نحن في لنقول ريزورتس ما فيها تفوت عليها محجبه، في مطارح ما بيتقبلوها فيها لانها محجبه، في بوزيشنز ممنوع يكون فيها محجبه. اكيد رح يكون هذا الوضع بالميديا مثل ما نحن على الارض.
هلا انا ما بشوف انه it affects the society. بشوف بمطارح في ناس محجبين، بس يمكن هي ما بعرف، انت لما عم تحكي تلفزيون وتقديم وهيك، يمكن مثلا كمان ما بشوف هذا محجبة عم تمثل، انه مش والله معروفة هي الممثلة محجبة وكتير مشهورة عم تمثل، لانه كمان مش لانه هي محجبة لانه ليه اشغال، لا you cannot do it لانه انت محجبة. يعني ما شفت ممثلة مشهورة محجبة، في ناس أمرار بياخدوا أدوار إنه هن محجبين بالمسلسل إيه، بس ما فيها تكون كل الوقت محجبة. محجبين representing her لحد اليوم ما بشوف إنه ولا شيء في غلط، وإلا كانت قامت الدنيا على السوشيال ميديا. يعني إحنا بنضلنا ناطرين القصص على دقرة. ما حضرت مسلسل ليتلي أو إنه في حدا ماخد دور محجبة وكان في شيء غلط. ليك الحجاب انا بالنسبه لإلي اللي اذا انا بدي فرجي عنه صوره مش حلوه، مش حدا بده يفرجي عنه. هي البنت بحد ذاتها يا بتكون محترمه هيدا الشيء يا ما بتكون محترميته، لانه كمان الحجاب له رولز معينه.
بس انا بيزعجني انه على التقل، يعني لانه على محطه المفروض تريبريزنتس كل العالم بلبنان. يعني بفهم يكون في تشانلز تصرف هيك لانه ما بتنتمي لهيدي الريبورتر، بس لانه على التقل ما كان لازم يصير هيدا الشيء. يعني مثلا فور اكزامبل بكتير مطارح في شركات، وباي ذا واي ما بلوم دائما الشركات، هي الفكره انه في بوزيشنز اللي بتكون ان كونتاكت مع العالم ممنوع تكون محجبه. ليتس سي كاشير بسوبر ماركت كبيره بتلاقيهم بيوصفوا محجبه بس بلوكيشنز معينه، بلوكيشنز ثانيين ممنوع. ليش؟ بعتقد انه كمان لانه الناس ما بتتقبل، الزباين بمناطق معينه ما راح تتقبل يشوفوا وحده محجبه. ذاتس واي يعني لو هن ما عندهم مشكله الشركه عم بيكون انه في اريزن مخصوص فيهم هن بيرسونلي. وبعدين في بوزيشنز هي يعني كمان الشركه يعني بالانترفيو او على التليفون او شيء انه محجبه they ask. هذا كان قبل ما يكون صار في لينكد ان وصوره وهيك، انه انا صرت باخذ كتير حذر تما انحط بهيدا الموقف. يعني انا من لما تحجبت انا اي هايلايت هيدا الشيء بكل الطرق الموجوده لحتى ما انحط بموقف حس برفض. او يعني مثلا في شركات بقدم عليها رفقاتي بيقولوا لي ما بياخذوا محجبين، اوكي فاين ما عندي مشكله. بس مثلا هلا ليتلي السي في مثلا بيقولوا لك ممنوع يكون في صوره، او مش ممنوع بس انه احسن ما يكون في صوره. ليش؟ لانه صار في الاي اي بيقطع بسكرينينج معينه، فافضل ما يكون في ديزاين وهيك. انا ما بشيل الصوره لانه بدي اياهم تشوفوا انه محجبه قبل ما يحكوني او يفكروا ايه او لا، لحتى يكون قطعنا هي ستيب انه لانه محجبه ما بدنا اياها. سو يمكن هيدا الشيء ما لازم اكون عم بعمله، بس انا عندي هيدا صار الرياكشن على السيتويشن اللي نحن فيه. لا بلا، لانه صرنا وير اوبن على برات لبنان. يعني انا ما بقى اصلا بيعني لي الشرك هون، لانه اصلا كلنا هيك بنقدم على اشياء ريموتلي وبرا، فبرا ما في هيدا المشكله.
Thank you for watching our segment. We hope you learned something new like we did, and we hope that these misrepresentations changes day by day. Thank you.
كنا نراسل بالوما ونقول شرحيته، ولما اجتمعنا الحال نسينا شو بدنا نقول. كنا نراسل بالوما ونقول شرح يطول ولما اجتمعنا الحال نسينا شو بدنا نقول لشو الحكي طالع علينا قمر خلي النظر للنظر يشرح هواه ويشتكي لشو الحكي
We're no غبرة.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Media Law and Ethics. My name is Rian.
And I'm Lean, and as communication majors, we will be examining a major ethical issue in the Lebanese advertising media, which will be the Sandushunos sexualized ad that we use to elaborate more on our topic.
So in the beginning of our segment, you'll be seeing our ad, and the next one is our reconstructed ad that we recreated, and it features a sexualized portrayal of a woman's breasts as burger buns, and it's using her body as the main selling point rather than the product itself. So this message it sends is clear. Women's bodies are used as marketing tools. This reinforces the male gaze, reduces women to objects, and normalizes harmful stereotypes that we see across billboards, advertisements, and social media.
So as communication students, we wanted to challenge the narrative. So we designed a new code of ethics based on feminist and visual ethical concepts that promote dignity, agency, and more responsible storytelling and advertising.
So in a more ethical perspective, we try to recreate the ad, and instead of relying on sexualized imagery, our vision actually shifts the focus to the restaurant itself and what it actually provides for the audience.
To explore this topic further, we interviewed our media and gender professor, Nisreen Shahid, about representation, sexualization, and ethical alternatives. The interview was conducted with audio-only format, and we won't be sharing any video footage as asked. So let's take a look at that conversation. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Dr. Nisreen Shahid, which is a media and gender instructor at LAU, pursuing a PhD in gender studies. So Doctor, thank you so much for speaking with us and having time to speak with us. For our project, we're exploring how Lebanese sexualized women's bodies with their products. And I'd like to ask you a few questions regarding that topic, since both of us think you're well qualified to speak on that matter. So how are women sexualized in Lebanese ads today? What do you think about that?
Yes, thank you, Dean, for the question. I think approaching the question or the topic of how women are sexualized in Lebanese ad requires us first to talk about the advertising industry in Lebanon, and by starting with this notion of profit-making industry, to understand how the industry operates, we can very clearly see how the industry reflects society and reproduces gender stereotypes and sends subliminal messaging, and these subliminal messages are very useful when they already emulate certain norms present within society, and thus sexualization is very useful. You can see different ways where women are sexualized in Lebanese ad, and one of the very interesting studies done on the subject is by Jad Milky and Dr. Gretchen King and other authors who have looked at the gendered representations in Lebanese ads. And they argue that there are several techniques that can be used in order to objectify and sexualize women, such as using like relative size. So, for example, referring to men as larger than women, representing them as larger than women. Other tactics can be, for example, it's called feminine touch.
But why do advertisers in Lebanon rely on women's bodies to even sell products?
So as I briefly mentioned, so the industry itself, like, relies on sending messages that appeal to certain audiences. And in order for this message to appeal to certain audiences, gender stereotyping can be very useful. And I would like to add that when I talk about gender, it's always very important to understand that gender is always classed and raced. And this is something that we've talked a lot about in our gender and media class. And this is something that's very apparent in Lebanese advertising. So why do they do this? Because it works. Why do they use gender, using a representation of gender as deeply raced and classed? Is because society is gendered and classed and raced. So by encoding these messages and sending these subliminal messages by appealing to norms that already exist in society, this is how companies can manage to succeed in appealing to audiences.
As a professor who studies media, who instructs on media and gender, and who lives in Lebanon, how do you think the male gaze appears in Lebanese advertising? How do you think the male gaze is present in Lebanese advertising?
So yeah, it is often the case that we find the male gaze as a framework, as a lens that operates in ads, in Lebanese ads. So it's always something. Of course, the male gaze refers to the techniques of filming. So we can definitely see the ads when they are representing women's bodies. We can see certain representations of ideal femininity, and the techniques of filming. You can always look at the angle through which the camera is looking at the bodies of women. It resembles the male gaze, so it is catered to an audience that consists of men or heterosexual men. And I would like to add again, so it's not just the male gaze. Again, the type of femininity that is being represented and that is being gazed at is always a very white and a very middle class form of femininity, and that is how ads try to eroticize the body of the woman through using techniques of objectification. But these techniques always depend on the construction of gender as using classed and raced norms.
Doctor, is there any regulation that limits sexist advertising in Lebanon?
I'm not familiar with the regulations. I think what I'm familiar with, I think the only laws I'm familiar with relate to public indecency, but those do not refer to sexism. Those.
How do you think today's society can push for a more respectful presentation of women, and what do you think students should look for when they're analyzing ads for gender issues, or even in general when they see an ad?
I think, of course, the first step is to have certain tools that are critical that allow us to analyze these ads. I think this is the first step of gaining, this political education. And having this media literacy will lead us to certain conclusions about, what kind of norms are being represented, what kind of messages are being communicated. And again, as I said, it's very important to try to mark the certain category.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Done for this interview. Thank you for your thoughtful input and your knowledge. I will be ending this interview recording.
It was
so
very
thank you for
meaningful
everyone for
to us.
watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lean. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. We found that the sexualization of women in Lebanese advertising isn't just a creative choice, it's a cultural message that influences how women are perceived.
So by recreating the Sandwich Hunos ad using our ethical code, we demonstrated that advertising can remain engaging and visually appealing without having to objectify women.
Ethical communication isn't just about restricting creativity. It's about understanding the impact of our messages on identity, equality, and representation.
We hope our work encourages advertisers and creators and communication students to rethink the way women are portrayed in ads, and to aim for representations that prioritize fairness, dignity, and ethical awareness, as Neen mentioned. Thank you for watching. Bye.
That was so cute.
نسم علينا الهوى من مفرع الوادي يا هوى دخل الهوى خدني على بلادي نسم علينا الهوى من مفرع الوادي يا هوى دخل الهوى خدني على بلادي يا هوا ياللي طاير بالهوا في منثورة طاقة وصورة اجمل عندي يا هوا ياللي طاير بالهوا في منثورة طاقة وصورة اجمل عندي تعالي يا قلبي اكبر بيها الغربي ما تعرفني لاقي خدني على بلادي شو بنا يا حبيبي شو بنا كنتو كنا طلعنا وفارقنا شو بنا شو بنا يا حبيبي شو بنا كنتو كنا طلعنا.
So you're on camera. Welcome back to Media Law and Ethics. This is the course reflection, and I want to ask each student to share from your perspective what you learned about yourself as an ethical media maker. So this final assignment, you had to write a code of ethics. You had to think about problems in the media and how to deal with them ethically. So what is one thing you learned about yourself as an ethical media maker? So we'll start with Hassana, and then you pass the mic to Rianne, and so on and so forth, okay? One thing you learned about yourself. And tell it to the camera, not to me.
Can she start? No,
you start.
Okay. No, I learned the media is a powerful space where we have to be aware of what we say, and each word matter. The word we say or the information we share can have an impact and can affect people thinking. So what we say, what we share is is important to people, and how they will think and how it will impact. Maybe it will be a high, maybe it will harm them, or it will be a positive. It will have a positive impact on them. So we have to choose the words we say online.
Do I go? Okay, so what I learned, especially throughout the final project, is perspectives. Because when I first saw the Sandwich ad, the original ad, I didn't see it as a sexualized ad. And I didn't even understand it at first when I saw it. But then when we saw it in class with Dr. Nisreen and Dean explained it to me, I saw her perspective and everyone else's perspective. So society and the media world is crazy on perspectives. And I learned to have more than one lens on looking at specific ads or even content or statements. So, yeah.
I learned the importance of factual media, since media is very important in creating propaganda, especially in war. I learned, especially in war and other complex regional issues, I learned that it's very important to always include context and 100% true information, not half of the information, all of it, and to always give a fair shot to everyone and interview actual people who qualify for the situation and not just some paid person for PR.
I think before media law and ethics, I was able to notice headlines that were being biased, but not as much as I do now. I think now I'm more educated on the topic, and I'm able to spot the type of language used and how biased it is, and the ethical weight that it could have on the public opinion, and how much it deeply affects people from different angles. And so seeing it from an ethical, not just a general perspective, really helped me as a media student.
After learning that there are code of ethics for journalistic practices, I now critically analyze headlines before retaining them, and I double check my resources, because I can now differentiate between a good and a bad journalist. And I also learned how much linguistic choices can affect the way journalists decide to portray marginalized groups like refugees. And that's it.
From this project, I learned how the media negatively represents refugees and how it can manipulate people and play with their minds and make them believe things about marginalized groups and deceive them. And I also learned how to become a better script writer in this assignment. And I learned how to course good. So I learned how the media can like manipulate people, deceive them, shape their minds, and like control what we believe, what we see, what we think. That's mainly what I learned.
Before this class, I used to just consume media, but now I can look further into the ethical practices, into hidden biases. I can now tell that even if things are legal, they might not be ethical in media. So now I have a better view. I'm not just watching media; I'm analyzing too.
Before taking the media law and ethics course, I was not. I thought that I was able to identify bias and racism in headlines, but when learning about ethics and laws, I realized that I was nothing near. I was nothing near, detecting bias and racism, and specifically in the last assignment, I had the task of extracting headlines, and when I was reading the headlines, I realized that if I was naturally, in real life reading these headlines, I wouldn't, consider that biased or racist. But after this course, I can easily detect now bias and racism.
I learned that we actually do have a lot of power when it comes to these things and creating code of ethics, especially specifically for certain problems. And I always from other media courses, we always learn to analyze the news and critically look at it from different perspectives. But I think this course, I learned from this course that it really shows how systemic these issues get when we look at the legal context and the aspect of it.
Sorry. I learned about the responsibility I hold as a media maker and the way everything is framed, the language I should use, and how to divide everything and structure everything and to make everything like accurate and try to avoid bias as much as possible.
So, after taking this course, I developed a sense of ethics. I became aware of the consequences of media, the responsibility of becoming a media maker. I was aware of differentiating between fairness and bias. So, this was a really beneficial course.
And so, in terms of assignments, would you have preferred to have a paper, a longer paper to write, or was it more beneficial, you think, to have like a segment and a live broadcast to host, or was this the most painful part of the assignment?
Actually, I was talking about this yesterday with my friend that I think the reason why I'm enjoying my major so much is because throughout the courses, I'm actually getting to implement everything that I learn, and I'm getting to experience real work, not just like papers and research and writing. So it definitely helps so much. It's better than just writing. So yeah.
I definitely hated papers. I think I think I benefited more from the course when it came to projects such as this live broadcast and segment. I think projects are the way to go when it comes to education.
No to finals, no to papers, no to anything written using the handwritten. No, I personally love actually doing the communication part of it, like presentations and especially like live broadcasts, because it's the core of our communications major, and we tend to drown a lot with papers and writing, so we forget the art of communication and the fun part of it, which is which is like non-verbal communication and the verbal part and the charisma and all of the skills. So yeah.
Okay, before I think that having paper at home is better, and we can I can do better. After this course, when we start doing the first presentation and now the live broadcast, I think that it's better, and I enjoyed more to present and to express what I want to say. And it really, like she said, it really present our major, our communication major.
Definitely segment, because as they already mentioned that doing something is better. We get to practice, we get to get better at like editing and all of that. And papers are more like to get better at research and writing, I guess. But yeah.
I think it's a different way to learn, and maybe a better way to learn, because a lot of the things we do in media is very theoretical, and I feel like we understand the theories and the concepts a lot. And so this one allowed us to be practical. It was a practical assignment to see how we could possibly do this outside of university and in real life.
I preferred the segments and live broadcasts and campaigns because it's better than only learning how to write essays and like doing papers and only PowerPoints. So this really helps us practice our work and like become better, like everything said, in video editing and interviews and everything else, like real work. So I think we should do this more to practice about our major, because it's called communication for a reason, and we have to do such work to demonstrate our skills.
No, I'm good. I agree with everyone. Yeah. Goodbye, guys. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
I think ما حدا هيحضر.
Okay, you're off camera. Oh. Let's go.
يا قمر على دارنا، يا حكاية سهرتنا، يا اللي فتنتنا حلو يا جارتنا. يا قمر على دارتنا، عطيلك ليلتنا، رقصة حملتنا وصوتك أخدتنا. يا قمر على دارتنا، يا حكاية سهرتنا، يا اللي فتنتنا حلو يا جارتنا. يا قمر على دارتنا، عطيلك ليلتنا، رقصة حملتنا وصوبك أخدتنا. شفناك ميلنا بهالليل وسألنا، دارين